A second time, I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Madam Temporary Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Greens to address this bill, and I want to thank the Minister and the Minister's staff for the briefing in the Crossbench briefing, but I acknowledge that there hasn't been a really sufficient time to address this, and I'm not surprised, Madam Temporary Speaker, because the government legitimately and correctly has set a target. They've set a target of 16,000 gigawatt hours of annual savings from the business as usual electricity use by 2020. And this legislation today confirms the government will not meet their own target. The government will not meet their own target of 16,000 gigawatt hours. It's not our target, it's a target developed by the coalition. I draw your attention, Madam Speaker, to a petition that I recently presented to the Parliament, which was from an organisation in my local electorate, Climate Change Balmain Rozelle. And they raised this petition calling on the New South Wales Government to maintain its full share of the national RET, the renewable energy target, which until recently was 41,000 gigawatt hours by 2020. And I mention this because the transition to renewable energy future has suffered a serious blow by the federal government's reduction in the RET, and we believe New South Wales could go a long way towards rebuilding industry confidence, creating new jobs and promoting efficiency by establishing a state-based target at an equivalent pro rata rate of the now abandoned national target of 41,000 gigawatt hours. Madam Temporary Speaker, when it comes to this particular piece of legislation, it's positive. The intention is positive. It's about efficiency. It's about driving down the cost of electricity bill, driving efficiency in the market, and ensuring that we can help develop the reduction in infrastructure costs which will result from any increased use of electricity. But I wanted just to focus on the weak targets that are in this proposal. The government undertook a review of this 16,000 gigawatt hour annual savings, and the review said in part, and I quote, "Further action is needed to reach New South Wales 2021 targets. New South Wales 2021 sets a long-term energy saving target to, quote, assist business and households to realise annual energy savings of 16,000 gigawatt hours by 2020 compared to business as usual trends. These savings are to be achieved through state and national energy efficiency programs. The ESS is the largest New South Wales program contributing to this target." So that's very positive. The government sets a target of 16,000 gigawatt hours. They implement legislation to achieve that. Now, to fill the gap, because the government, quite frankly, won't meet that target, they're proposing to increase the energy targets by just 7% in 2016 and a meagre 8.5% from 2019 onwards. And what does that target in this legislation mean? It means they will not meet their own commitments. So the government is legislating for failure. They're legislating to say that we won't even meet the commitments that we made to this community and to this state regards energy efficiency. I'm incredulous that members from the government can stand up and support this project when they're not meeting the 16,000 gigawatt hour target that they've set for themselves. Very disappointing, Madam Deputy Speaker. But we do have a solution. The solution comes from the government's own review. The government's own review identifies that there is an option to meet their target. So the government enters through a review. How do we meet the 16,000 gigawatt energy savings? How do we reduce energy bills? How do we develop economic security? How do we drive efficiency? Well, the answer's in their own report. The report makes it clear that in order to meet the obligation, the 5% obligation would need to increase to 24%. And what this legislation proposes is just 7 and 8.5. The government rejected this option, instead advocating an option of just 6.5. So we've got a gap of 3,000 gigawatt hours, almost 20% gap between the 16,000 gigawatt hours in efficiency savings the government has committed to, and this legislation will mean that it will be impossible. Under this program, which does the heavy lifting when it comes to meeting this target, this is the program that can deliver the results. This program has been identified, along with meeting this target, of being 20% short, over 3,000 gigawatt hours short. So even though we believe this target of 16,000 gigawatt hours is very modest, it's a good step forward. The government can't even meet their own target. I mean, it's very disappointing, Madam Temporary Speaker, that we're in this state. The targets in the bill, of course, are a slight increase on the government's former position of 5%, but we will fail to meet the target. There's been no serious attempt to transition away from fossil fuels. You'll see recently there was a report about Premier Bev blocking the climate report, which is really from the government's own bureaucracy, pointing to the demise of fossil fuels and the huge transition which we're in the process of seeing at the moment, where this state needs to be moving to an economic security in terms of its future, driving efficiency, good quality jobs in the green tech sector to make sure we can help drive the economy in an efficient way. And the most efficient way in terms of generating electricity, we know into the future, is renewable energy. So, Madam Temporary Speaker, it's very concerning. And I asked the Minister, when the Minister applies to this, Minister, how will you reach the 16,000 gigawatt hours target when you know that it can't be delivered? The government should just say, the target we made, we can't deliver. Or they should do what their own government report has identified, which is increase the target to 24%. At the moment, we know the energy savings scheme currently requires electricity retailers and large consumers to surrender certificates that are worth 5% of their demand. These certificates can be purchased from other consumers who reduce their electricity usage from energy-saving companies, often through the market. And we know that this mechanism, in terms of the mechanism which is being promoted here in the ESS, is a really powerful market mechanism to help deliver these efficiencies. What's the point, Madam Temporary Speaker, of setting a target as inadequate as 16,000 gigawatt hours is if the government can't meet it? It's very, very disappointing. The government might say, well, we have a more efficient measure to meet the target. Well, we want to see what it is. The truth is that for some reason the government has decided to commit to not deliver its own target. And I draw your attention, Madam Temporary Speaker, to the ESS, the briefing paper from the government, which talks in glowing terms about how the ESS is a New South Wales Premier's energy efficiency program. Well, New South Wales Premier, you're not delivering on your own program. You're not delivering on your own mega target of 16,000 gigawatt hours. Now, it does place obligations on electricity retailers and market participants to purchase an amount of energy savings a year, and it's a very positive framework for creating and engendering positive change. It's driving down the cost of electricity bills. It's making sure that efficiency is taken forward. And it also identifies here that these enhancements will also contribute 524 additional gigawatt hours towards meeting the New South Wales energy saving target, assisting businesses and households to realise annual energy savings of 16,000 gigawatt hours. It also highlights the reforms projected to save households and businesses $8.2 billion in their energy bills between 2015 and 2040. These changes are expected to deliver an additional net economic benefit of $853 million in present value terms over the life of the scheme, above current policy settings. We want there to be more. We want there to be even greater savings. We want there to be even greater reductions in these electricity bills, and we want to deliver an even higher net economic benefit. That's the position of the Greens. In fact, it's ironic, isn't it, Mr Temporary Speaker, that I'm in here fighting for the Liberals' own targets. The own targets that they have, I'm fighting for them to deliver their own target. Not our target, but their target. And it's very disappointing when the government can't even deliver 41,000 gigawatt hours, as I said in my opening, is that we believe that here in New South Wales, when we talk about targets, the now abandoned 41,000 gigawatt hours should be prorated, that New South Wales should make a commitment to the gigawatt hour target and make sure that we can deliver the efficiency we desire. So if there's positive elements to the bill, and I do want to mention those before I conclude, Mr Temporary Speaker, we're supporting the extension of 2025, and of course covering gas is logical and recognises the same steps that have been taken in other jurisdictions. Mr Temporary Speaker, can I conclude by saying that we are supportive of the positive environmental initiative this government puts forward. We're supportive of reducing energy bills. We're supportive of driving energy in the sector. It would be fantastic if the government supported their own target. It's disappointing the government isn't supporting that target, and we encourage the Minister and the Premier, because this is the Premier's ESS scheme, to do everything within their powers to meet the target. And I look forward to hearing the Premier and the Minister informing the House about how they will meet the 16,000 gigawatt hours target they have set. We won't be opposing the bill, of course, because the bill has some excellent measures, but the government can do a lot better, and quite frankly, it should do better. And the Cabinet should be looking at this and saying, why is it that we're not meeting our own targets? And I put it to the responsibility of the Premier and the Cabinet to be supporting what their own target is of 16,000 gigawatt hours.